This is the Horror Movie Show on hmpod.com, your one-stop shop for all things horrific and horror-related. Read the reviews, frolic in the forum, hem and haw over the horoscopes, and listen mightily to the Horror Movie Show with Mark and Jerry, your horrible hosts.
Good day, folks. Jerry here.
And Mark.
Bringing you the newest episode of the Horror Movie Show on hmpod.com. Also on iTunes, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm certain it is.
It should be anywhere around here now. You should be able to hear. Just grab the headphones off the guy sitting next to you and listen, and odds are he's listening to the Horror Movie Show.
Of course. Everybody listens to us.
Everybody except me. I never listen to it.
Well,
I hear it's very good.
It's like when I was doing acting on cable TV. I never liked to look at myself.
No?
Never.
Well,
I always thought... Hey,
why should you be different from the majority?
Yeah. No, really. People would say, oh, you're doing a great job. And I'm looking at myself saying, I don't think so.
People tell me I have a nice voice, a good radio-type voice. I can't stand the sound of it. It's just horrible to me.
Well, yeah, it's hideous.
Yeah.
That's true.
Thanks. I need the confidence boost. That's good.
I do have my ear plugs in every time you come over.
Bombarded. So we've got episode number 119 here, folks, and we are going to start off talking about a brand new movie. Mark and I made a point of going to see it.
Yes.
On opening day.
Jerry treated it. That was very nice
of
him.
It was. It's very nice. It's hard to sneak into those modern theaters, because they have the alarms and everything.
And plus, if it's 3D, then, it's kind of useless sneaking in.
Well, I find just closing one eye and humming.
Yes.
That'll do it. So we saw Gravity. We saw it in 3D. It's directed by Alfonso Cuarón, written by Alfonso and Jonas Cuarón. I'm not sure. It looks like the Spanish word for heart. But my goodness, director Alfonso does a great job. There's really only two actors in it, certainly only two living actors that you see, and the
rest are dead, right?
Well, they're either dead or they're on Earth.
That's
and
right.
This is about Sandra Bullock and George Clooney being astronauts. She's a medical mission specialist, and he's sort of all-around super astronaut dude.
Yeah,
Mr. Confident.
Well-seasoned.
Well-seasoned, yes, he is.
Astronaut.
And he looks like an astronaut. He certainly he passes.
It's his last mission, so he's really quite cocky.
Yes.
And he's quite funny in sections.
Yes. And when we first meet them, and we're really going to try not to give anything away because it's such a new movie.
But I want to.
Oh, we want to. But suffice to say that while George and Sandra, that is, Sandra is playing astronaut Ryan Stone, and George Clooney is playing Matt Kowalski, which is a really good name for an astronaut. It's Matt and Kowalski. Yeah. And he's zooming around in a little jetpack, trying to see how that works, and also, of course, he'd like to break the record for longest spacewalk.
Yes, but it's a long record.
It's a long record, and it doesn't look like he's going to do it until. And she's outside as well. She's working on like the Canadarm, and I
noticed they took the Canada off.
They took
Canadarm.
Yeah. Yes, this is sort of it's sort of an alternate universe story, because while the technology is what was around just a couple of years ago, they're in a shuttle, and there's no more shuttles. So it's sort of like a what if that could have happened, 10 years ago even.
Yeah.
But it isn't. It's supposed to be today, because there's the International Space Station, and there's also a Chinese space station comes up later in the movie, which I have no idea what the Chinese space program is all about. Well, they don't exactly brag about it themselves.
It exists. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
The station doesn't exist. There's a small little node up there that they are going to use use to build their station with.
Same as the International Space Station.
And it'll be very much like the International Station.
I don't think there's much else that anybody could build up there. Nobody's going to be building the giant 2001 Space Wheels or the Elysium pleasure palace up there.
I would go if Elysium was up there.
Oh, really? Yeah, forget Disneyland.
Yeah. One of the nice really things about this movie is the fact that you get to go through these space stations in a very nonchalant kind of way.
Yeah.
I mean, in that they don't really, this is the space station. Yeah. It's her running through the space station.
Sort of
floating
through.
Yeah. And it's like, it's just all this stuff floating in the air, you know, pens and paper clips.
Because it's been abandoned very quickly. At the beginning of the story, you know, like 5 minutes into it, the action begins when Sandra and George are outside of their space shuttle, and they get word from NASA, and they've been joking around. George is in the middle of a good story. He's full of anecdotes and
lots of stories. There is a third person out there.
Yes, there is.
We never get to see him close up.
No,
just his
not
body.
Really.
Just his body.
Yeah. And they get word from Houston Space Center. And the voice of Houston is Ed Harris, who also played the voice of Houston in Apollo 13.
Yeah.
So you don't want Ed as your contact with Earth because he's a jinx. He's a jinx, man.
Maybe they did that just because maybe that was a in joke, right?
Don't let Ed near Houston.
I like that.
Yeah, it's true. So they get word from Houston that the Russians have exploded one of their satellites. They've sent a missile up and they've blown it to pieces.
Basically retiring it.
Yes. The thought is that it was probably a spy satellite that went wrong, and in order to keep it secret, they destroy it. But unfortunately, what they do is they produce a cloud of bullets.
Debris.
That are now ricocheting, well, not ricocheting, but they're now traveling in all directions, and they begin to hit other pieces of junk that are floating around other satellites. So communication gets knocked out, and the next thing you know, it's basically a meteor storm coming at our heroes.
Right.
And the scramble is to get into their ship. Can't do that. Get into the International Space Station. All right, that's one thing. And then get to the Chinese station because they just have to find an escape pod and come back to Earth. But there is just obstacle piled on obstacle.
Right.
Remember the movie we watched a while ago set in South American country where one disaster happens after the other? There's an earthquake, and then the maximum security lunatic bin prison, the walls of that collapse, and then there's a tidal wave. I mean, it's just one thing after another.
Yep.
That's what this is like. It's and yet it takes place more or less in real time.
There are a few sections that are skipped when she has a rest, but it's very quick.
Yeah.
You don't realize,
and when they're traveling,
you really don't know how long she's been out or anything. But you do know that it takes 90 minutes for the debris circumnavigate the world.
Right,
so every 90 minutes you get showered with this debris.
Yeah.
And so it's a race on the clock to get out of there before it comes back again.
Before it comes again.
And does more havoc.
Yeah. It's like it's worse than machine gun fire. It's traveling faster than bullets. And
there's nothing to slow it down.
It's huge. And every time that it makes an orbit of the Earth, it's bashing into more stuff and causing more debris. This is, in fact, an actual problem, that there is so much crap around the Earth right now, and it whacks into each other, and it disintegrates, but it continues to spin around, that there could very easily come in the near future a time when there's such a debris field around the Earth that we won't be able to launch ships from the ground. Mm-hmm. It will literally just be beaten to death as it tries to get into space, tries to get past this
Well, maybe
cloud.
At some point they'll send a giant magnet up
there.
that'll pull all this stuff together into one Death Star.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
One giant moon.
The problem is that these pieces travel so quickly that even a tiny little piece, like a bolt, is
deadly.
Is absolutely deadly. It'll go through not just human flesh, but it'll go through
metal,
all sides of your space station and your ship and out the other end, and then come back and get you again in an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So now, this movie is short. It's only about 90 minutes, but it felt as if it was real time.
Yeah, and it's a beautifully shot movie.
Oh, gorgeous.
I've been doing a little bit of reading on how they made the movie, and a lot of it is CGI. You just don't know it.
Right.
A lot of it is just their faces, and everything else is CGI. And it's so well done. The camera moves around, and it'll move and it'll rotate around Sandra Bullock, and then the next thing you know, it's in her helmet and looking at her point of view.
Her point of view, yeah.
And then it shifts out of her helmet, and it's just so well done.
Seamless.
It is seamless.
Yeah. And this is the only 3D movie where I have not been aware that it's a 3D movie. I completely forgot that I had those stupid glasses on and that I was watching a 3D movie.
It's so natural.
It did. It was seamless. And
it was
just
beautiful.
Just flawlessly done.
It's really nice in 3D.
And it's gorgeous. You've got the Earth is in almost every shot outside of the ships. And it's like the third character.
Right.
It's always there. It's home. It's mocking them. It's tempting them. And at the same time, it's death to them. That's where they want to go. How do they get there? But, oh, geez. It looks like those IMAX films that NASA has taken of space.
Yes.
And I don't know whether they had permission to use a bunch of those videos, but it is that gorgeous and crystal clear. And, of course, the inky depths of space. The stars so far away. They are like Apollo 18. The feeling of being alone is so palpable that it's crushing. And you see that in Sandra Bullock's character. You just, at times, she's just going to give up. She's that close to suicidal because what can she possibly do? But,
that's interesting.
She doesn't give up and things continue to happen.
I read up on that. She spent 6 months in physical training preparing for the part, and they went through every single scene of that thing, and she was prepared. And they talked about her breathing. They talked about, the
oxygen deprivation.
The deprivation plus the anxiety, and because there's so much conveyed from just listening to her breath. It's just amazing. And such a performance. It was a great performance.
It really was. There's a scene where she finally manages to make it into one of these orbiting stations, and the oxygen in her suit, because they've been working outside already for quite some time, so she's down to a few percent when they have to make their escape.
Yeah.
And by the time that she gets inside and can take her helmet off, her lips are blue. We've been listening to her gasping and breathing carbon dioxide, and she's on the verge of passing out anyway and quickly dying. And when she takes her helmet off, her lips are blue, and you can actually see color starting to come back into her face. It's perfect. I can't see how they could have improved this movie. I was hoping it would be 2 hours rather than 90 minutes because I enjoyed it so much.
Right.
And boy, did it move along. It just barreled along.
Some facts. Robert Downey Jr. was offered the part of George Clooney, of course.
Another smart ass. I can see that. George has got a little more age, I think. A little more gravitas and maturity.
Yeah.
You just wouldn't be sure that Downey wouldn't have, snuck some drugs on board and was really enjoying himself more than he ought to. But Clooney really conveys the calmness that is the primary characteristic of all astronauts. They will not panic. They have the right stuff.
Yes.
And she's not an astronaut. She talks about how when they were training her to fly a Soyuz capsule, just in case, as in this situation, just in case she has to use it for re-entry. And she crashed it every single time. So she is no pilot.
Yeah. And she's not too confident.
She's a technician.
Yeah.
So it's George who's talking her through all this.
Yeah.
Sandra is really along to do a job and along for the ride, but she's nauseous at the beginning of the movie. She never does puke, which is amazing. Yeah, well, she's busy. It doesn't have time.
Especially right at the beginning when she gets knocked off the arm.
Which is not giving anything away because that's in the commercials.
Yeah,
that's in the TV.
There's actually they've been showing a lot of scenes on the different talk circuits, and they're showing way too much.
I saw her on the Daily Show with Jon Stewart, and she told a funny story. She was promised. One of the reasons she wanted to do this movie was she was promised that she'd get to shoot some scenes in that zero-G
airplane that goes up and then comes down at such an angle that for a couple of minutes
you're weightless.
You're weightless. A week before they wrapped shooting, they had decided they didn't need to do those scenes, that everything could be CGI, that they didn't actually need her to be weightless. So the director, rather than tell her and incur her Hollywood wrath, got George Clooney to tell her, which I think is funny. But both Clooney and Bullock, I believe, are producers on that.
Are they?
Yeah, they both put up, or on the strength of them, they got the money. Because I hadn't looked into him, but I haven't heard of Alfonso Cuarón before.
He's a friend of James Cameron.
Okay.
And James Cameron, he knew that he had this story, and he had...
Cameron did?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't until Cameron did Avatar that this director said, I have the technology to do what I want to do now. And it was at that point they started making arrangements to make this film.
So sorry, did you say Cameron came up with this story?
No, Cuarón did.
Okay.
But Cameron knew about it.
Right.
And it wasn't until Cameron did Avatar that
right.
Cuarón realized he could actually do his film.
Right. Yeah, Cameron was instrumental in coming up with such beautiful 3D camera technology.
Right.
Yeah.
So the technology caught up to the story.
Right.
To be able to do this right.
Right.
And it does.
Yeah.
It does it justice. Some of the other people that were considered for the lead actress.
Oh, yeah. For
Angelina Jolie was actually offered the part.
Right.
She turned it down.
Right.
And then Rachel Weisz
too sweet.
went for it. And, Naomi Watts, Natalie Portman.
Oh, too cute.
She got the part as well, but she had to bow out because she got pregnant.
Oh, okay.
Scarlett Johansson and Olivia Wilde were a number of the people.
Oh.
There were more, but those were the...
I think the last two just too pretty. Sandra Bullock is...
I don't know. Scarlett Johansson is pretty tough.
Yeah, she's too young. I think Sandra Bullock, again, because...
Her age and maturity.
Her age. She's in her 40s. You get the idea that she's had a life. And, of course, that comes into it. We do find out little bits and pieces about her personal life and why the hell did she chose a job that sends her into space so that there's so few people around.
Right.
She was badly hurt in an accident that killed her daughter, and she was emotionally hurt.
Right.
And she shut down. And yet, somehow or other, she may have shut down, but she continued her work. And got the attention of NASA, and they said, you're the best person for this job. She went along with that because Sandra Bullock may have gone through a lot of training as an actress, but a real astronaut goes through years of physical and mental training.
Now, other movies that Cuarón's done?
Oh, yeah, what? I don't know.
I know you don't.
Yeah.
Harry Potter.
Oh, okay.
He did 2 of them.
Whatever.
I know you don't like that series, but you got to realize that...
They look good.
Yeah. Later on, towards the end of that series, the last 4 films are not kids' movies. They're not. You should really take a second look, or even a first look.
Yeah.
Because they are more serious than the beginning, the first 2.
I'll get my evil twin to watch them. He's got more time than I do.
They're really dark.
Really
dark.
That's good. That's good. I enjoy frightening children. Halloween is coming up in a few weeks, and it's like... As I say, it's the only night of the year when I'm technically allowed to go out and make 14-year-old girls scream. Frowned upon most nights.
Yes. The police would be around most nights.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I know, yeah. I can only hide in the bushes for so long.
And you have big bushes around your house.
We get a lot of rain in Vancouver at that time of year. So the next movie we want to talk about is a chestnut, Suspiria, from 1977. And I've just been visiting a lot of Facebook pages of other horror sites, and everybody seems to be talking about Suspiria, and I'd never seen it beginning to end, so Mark and I decided we would include that in one of our shows. And
here it is.
So another director, not necessarily known for horror movies, Dario Argento. He was also co-writer along with another Italian, Daria Nicolodi. And this, somehow or other, it's based on a novel by Thomas de Quincey, who is an English writer from like 200 years ago. He wrote The Diary of an Opium Eater. Yeah. I would not have put... So I guess he also wrote A Scary Story.
So I mean,
it's the story involves, and the only name actress in this, at least the only actress that I recognized was Jessica Harper, who plays Susie Banyan, and she's an American dancer who has come to a school in Germany to continue her studies. They offer a 3-year course, but immediately she gets there, things are getting weird and very odd. It's a very unfriendly taxi driver. Struck me as very German.
Okay, first of all, we got to talk about what the movie looked like.
Well, we'll get to that in a second. Let me set up the story here.
Okay, as she drives up to the school, there's a girl that is leaving the school. It's pouring rain.
Yeah, and she's shouting things, and Jessica overhears a couple of things she says, but then the girl runs away, and Jessica is not allowed into the building, and she goes off to a hotel. And when she comes back the next day, the police are there, and there's an investigation on because the girl that Jessica saw running away the night previous has been murdered most horribly. Now, the sets in this movie are staggering, aren't they?
Yeah.
Real old European buildings.
The color, and a lot of reds and blacks and whites.
And there's a blue house as well.
Yeah.
It's just startling.
And it's very artistically done.
It's nightmarish, very dreamlike.
Yeah, and every scene is almost, it looks like somebody's painted the scene.
Yes.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And the girls in it are all well dressed and look wonderful.
And they're all young and pretty and
strangely enough, the original story called for a ballet school, but the girls in it were only supposed to be 12 years old.
Oh, okay.
Whoever was producing the movie said, no, we're going to have older women in this because it's too dark and scary for younger kids.
For children. Yeah.
And so the guy said, okay, we'll use older women, but he didn't change the dialogue at all.
Oh, that's why.
So it's very simplistic, childlike dialogue.
But at the same time, it was shot in Italian and dubbed into English. So Jessica Harper is speaking English, but she's the only one with her own voice in this movie. And the older actress, Joan Bennett, she's an old Hollywood hand, and she plays Madame Blanc, who's the supposed boss of this school. There's some great supporting characters. Is Olga, is that the tough woman who's about as mannish as she could be? Played by Barbara Magnolfi. Oh my goodness, what a beast she is. And she stomps around.
It's like you're in a German Nazi camp.
Yeah, rather. She is a little Ilsa She-Wolf in this movie.
Yeah.
And, now I'm wondering, it might be Eva. Eva might be the tough woman, in which case she's played by a woman named Pat Hingle, which is funny because there's
a comedian.
No, not a comedian. He was an American actor named
Hingle.
Pat Hingle,
yeah.
and he was in that movie with John Cusack and Angelica Houston, The Grifters.
He was also Commissioner Gordon in some of the Batman movies.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah, he's a big fat man. He's also in one of my very favorite movies. It starred Sharon Stone and Leonardo DiCaprio. The Quick and the Dead.
Uh-huh.
Quick and the Dead, which is a great western directed by our old pal.
Was that Rodriguez?
No, that's Evil Dead.
Sam Raimi.
Sam Raimi. Yeah, Sam Raimi did The Quick and the Dead.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Terrific movie. It's not horror, but it's really worth seeing. Best thing that Sharon Stone ever did, in my opinion.
Now, Jessica Harper said that of one of the actresses in the movies didn't get billing.
Oh.
It was an old woman playing Helena Marcos, and she's not credited because she was a 90-year-old ex-hooker that they found on the streets of Rome.
Right.
So now, this is a very simplistic story.
It is.
And in fact, it resolves very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's very easily resolved. So it's about a coven of witches. That's all it is.
When Jessica gets there, when she starts to get to know the other women, and most of the other women are kind of vicious, catty bitches, but she does make one friend, Sarah, and Sarah starts cluing her in. And I didn't really understand. It wasn't well explained, but just suddenly now we're on the hunt for whatever it is that's peculiar behind the scenes in this dancing academy. And it turns out that, it all has to do with like a 200-year-old witch.
Yeah.
And, who is really running this school, and what is the purpose of this school?
Yeah, and I don't understand how, if they've been catching these girls and boys too as well, and killing them, you would think the parents after a while would think, I'm not going to send my kid to this place anymore.
Wait, we've got a scholarship. Oh, well, in that case
they're going to get. But it's very, and the blood in this thing is like paint.
Yes, very, very stylized. It's bright scarlet red, and it's thick like paint. And you can see, like, basically cupfuls of it being thrown into people's faces.
Even when it's coming out of somebody's mouth, it's very paint-like.
Very thick, and
it's just not natural.
No,
at all.
I think Argento filled people's mouths with oil paints and made them spit it out.
That's obviously.
So I thought Jessica Harper does a good job. I've been a fan of hers since Phantom of Paradise, and also she plays one of Woody Allen's love interests in Stardust Memories, which is his sort of his Bergman-esque movie.
Right.
And she plays yet another one in a long line of Woody Allen heroines who is about as neurotic as women come.
This is obviously the beginning of her career because she's very young in this movie, I think.
She is. I suspect that, it was about this time that they made. In fact, I think Phantom of the Paradise was made a couple of years before 77. So, Jessica was tagged to go over to Italy and work on this film, and it's sort of an art film, and I know a lot of people really revere this movie. I thought it had a lot of the flaws that movies from the 70s have, in that it looks pretty cheap in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
The sets are magnificent.
Well, I think the sets look like they're on a stage.
They could be on a stage, but I also think that some of those interiors are amazing old European houses. And
the hallway is obviously a set. It's like there's a lot of them roaming down and and down that hallway and around that corner.
Yes.
The floor looks like a stage set.
Yeah, definitely. And again, that sort of makes it look like a 70s movie.
Yeah.
But
it is a 70s movie.
It is a 70s, and it has that look. But I did enjoy it. It held my attention beginning to end. And I just wouldn't put it in my top 10 the way an awful lot of horror fans.
Artistic look and thing it's a cool movie, but very simplistic. Not a lot of mystery to it.
No,
not at all.
Not a lot of depth to it.
So I find it, like you said, it's okay to watch. I can't consider it a classic.
No, I wouldn't call it a great movie. The murder at the beginning of the poor young woman who runs away from the academy is particularly awful, with multiple stabbings and hangings.
And again, artfully done.
Yeah, I suppose. It's sort of stylized, but it's gruesome, and you see like a man's hand going in again and again and again to stab this poor woman.
Was it a man?
Well, it was a hand with a knife. I suppose we don't know exactly who's doing it. But the Coven of Witches, we discover, has many members, and they have both male and female, and all ages, which is interesting.
The characters in this movie are really unique. The person that brings in the food to Jessica Harper.
The Romanian. With the Romanian with his new false teeth.
That nose and that look, he looks like a caricature of a real person. And he is a real person.
He looks like something out of Gorman Gas.
Something like that. Yeah. So, I mean, in those aspects, it's a very interesting movie. And just the way it's shot and things like that. But the storyline is just too simplistic.
It is a bit, and I think that has a lot to do with the pacing. It's a lot slower than we're used to today. Now, speaking of pacing, let's get on to our next movie, Fright Night. This is the 2011 remake. The original is from 1985, and I'm sure I saw it many, many years ago, but we're not going to talk about that because I want to watch it again. And Mark has seen Fright Night 2, New Blood, which is a movie from this year, but I haven't seen it yet. So
there is a couple of Fright Nights. There's the original in 85. 5 or something like that.
Yep.
And then there was a Fright Night sequel to that one.
Okay.
But I don't know anything about that one.
Right.
But they all use the same names.
Yeah.
Same characters are in every movie.
Right.
So
okay.
I look forward to seeing the original as well.
Yeah. We'll talk more about that. But for now, we're going to talk about the 2011 Fright Night, which has a pretty amazing cast. Directed by Craig Gillespie, written by Marty Noxon, stars Anton Yelchin, Ensign Chekhov.
That's Chekhov in the Star Trek series, new Star Trek.
And of course, he was also the father. He played the father of John, the savior of humanity, in the latest Terminator movie.
Right.
Yeah. That's
right.
Yeah. He's rescued, and he has to be rescued so that he can go back in time. He's Kyle Reese. He can go back in time and
I didn't
father him.
When I was watching this movie, I didn't realize he was Chekhov until after the fact. Suddenly, when I saw his picture in IMDb, then I said, "That's Chekhov."
Right.
But when I was watching him in the movie, he doesn't have the accent or anything like that. He doesn't.
Neither does Walter Koenig.
Yeah, but anyway, his voice was familiar. I knew the voice. Then it dawned on me who he was.
I knew who he was. And then playing, let's see, his mom is played by Toni Collette, an Australian actress who's done a lot of good stuff. She was the mom in Sixth Sense, for example. David Tennant, who is one of the Doctor Who's. He's a recent Doctor Who. He plays Peter Vincent, who is sort of an overblown and ridiculously alcoholic Vegas magician. Yeah, he calls himself the vampire killer or vampire hunter, something like that.
Killer.
And Anton's girlfriend Amy is played by Imogene Poots.
Good name.
Funny name. And one of Anton's little friends, in fact, a former friend, because Anton has grown past being just another one of the high school nerds, played by Christopher Mintz-Plasse, who was, of course, Mofo and was it Red Mist in the Kick-Ass movies.
Kick-Ass 2.
Yeah, Kick-Ass 1 and 2. So he's in this, and
he's acting pretty much the same way.
He plays a dick. He seems to always play. He looks like a little dick, and he plays a little dick. And I must say, I liked him more in this than I did in Kick-Ass 2.
Yes.
But then I don't think either of us liked much about Kick-Ass 2.
No,
we said that previously. It's just.
Did we mention Colin Farrell?
I was getting to Colin, the neighbor, who at the beginning, of course, everyone is wondering what is up with him. He is a vampire, and it's up to Anton to try and stop this vampire. And his name is Jerry.
Yeah.
And he's played by Colin Farrell. And Farrell does such a good job. He plays the vampire by the old Christopher Lee, Bela Lugosi rules. He can't enter a house unless he's invited. Crucifixes annoy him, but they don't. He's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
He can burn them up and throw them away.
Holy water, on the other hand, that's
stings,
more annoying.
That stings. Fire is a bad thing. And the old stake in the heart is the best way to kill him.
Why is it sunlight didn't affect him?
Oh, it does. He avoids it.
Yeah, but he was out in the open.
No, he's out at dusk. You never see him out in sunlight. He's out at dusk.
Oh,
so
once
the sun is dipped down, he can come out, but pale. He sort of glows with like as if he's got zinc all over his face because he's very, very pale, and he plays the vampire not as a human but as an animal. And his eyes are like a wild dog. They're always darting here, darting there. He's always looking, gathering whatever info he can use against people. And the nice thing is that, of course, Anton is trying to convince both his girlfriend and his mom that their neighbor Jerry.
Yeah.
Good name for a vampire.
Name for a.
Never really thought of it as a menacing name before.
I've always thought your name was menacing.
Most menacing thing about me. Anton is trying to convince his mom and his girlfriend that the neighbor Jerry is a vampire and they don't dare let him in. And the mom is saying, you're ridiculous. And the girlfriend's saying, you're having a breakdown. Get a hold of yourself. And Colin is at the door and Anton won't let him in. And the next thing Colin does is he goes around the back.
Now this part.
And he digs up at super speed. He digs up a gas line and he sets fire to the end of it, and then the house blows up.
First of all, he pulls the line up above the ground. And therefore detaching all of the lines in the house all at once. Now, that would never happen.
Oh, he's very strong.
No, but it wouldn't happen. It's not designed all in one spaghetti piece that if you yank it here, it's going to pull it.
It's a great effect. It looks good.
It's a good effect.
You got to admit, it looks good in the movie.
And
you know, the thing is, Mark,
point,
if that's what you find unrealistic about this movie, then you must have found the rest of the movie really scary, because most of it isn't real.
I like the fact that it's at that point his mother believes.
Oh, yeah. He's like, what the hell is he doing in my backyard? And Colin with his little spade, and he's like digging super fast, and the next thing you know, the house is exploding. And he's giving them big toothy grins, and it's like, I can't come into the house. I'll get rid of the house.
No problem.
And they play with that can't enter, don't let me in sort of thing. They play with that because at one point Anton is on the run from Jerry, and he gets into this house. It's a Las Vegas suburb, and the mom is a real estate agent, and she's Century 21, and she's got... You see right at the beginning, that these are going to come into play, because she's a real estate agent and she's got all these signs on pointy stakes. So you know that Colin's going to get whacked at some point. And the first time that he gets staked, it's by the mum. And she misses his heart, but boy, the scene in which he is like a horribly wounded animal, dragging himself around, his legs flipping up over the top of his shoulders, and he's writhing and screaming in an inhuman voice. It's really well done.
Much better than the Fright Night 2.
Fright Night 2. Well, I look forward to seeing that, and we'll talk about it more. But just on its own, I really enjoyed the 2011 version of Fright Night. I thought it had a really wicked, black sense of humor.
Well, and I liked David Tennant's his portrayal of
constantly guzzling creme de menthe.
Yeah,
most foul
and the way
drink.
He walked, the way he undressed, it was all flamboyant.
Yes, yeah.
He did a real good job.
Well, when you first see him, you see him like a video on the computer screen, and that's the guy that Anton is counting on to be the expert. And he goes to see Peter Vincent character, and he's ushered in, and he's told them that he's a reporter with the New York Times, and he's there to do a story. And he gets in, and immediately Peter Vincent realizes he's a lunatic, because he's talking about real vampires.
Yeah.
And he's ordered out, but he leaves some proof behind. He leaves some photos behind, including a picture of this wall hanging, this sort of flag that Jerry has in his house. And Peter realizes that, oh my God, this truly is something evil and from beyond. And he does come to fight at Anton's side, which is nice, because you do think he's a coward.
And I think that happens in every one of the movies.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, same notion.
You know who plays Peter Vincent in the original?
No, who?
Roddy McDowall.
Oh, yes. I have seen this years ago. Yeah, that's right.
So I'm going, Roddy was doing all sorts of stuff back then.
Yeah, and he could play that sort of effete, slightly effeminate Englishman. Yeah. David Tennant is Scots, to be strict about it, but he seems to usually play an Englishman. I think he played Doctor Who with an English accent.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't Scottish.
Yeah. But the first scene in which Anton and Vincent meet in Vincent's penthouse in Vegas, and he's already guzzling his disgusting green creme de menthe.
Yeah.
And he's there, and he's in his full stage makeup, and as he's talking to Anton, bit by bit, things are removed. Sideburns, goatee, mustache, bit by bit.
Because I didn't even recognize him until he took his goatee off.
Bit by bit, all these things come off, and he's even using the creme de menthe to remove the spirit gum on his face, which is that's so sticky. That's really, only a drunk would do that. What do you need a bottle of rubbing alcohol for when you're drinking a bottle of rubbing alcohol?
Yeah, one of the advantages of having him on the team, though, was he was a collector of odd artifacts,
magical implements.
So they come
like
in handy.
Yeah, and in fact, he saves a lot of lives by giving Anton a special stake that if the vampire is killed with this, then all his victims will return to human.
That's right.
So most of the victims... Oh, and this is the other thing. Colin Farrell's vampire, this is explained. He comes from a specific clan of vampires, and they're what Peter calls snackers. Because they don't kill their victims outright.
Yes.
He keeps them in a dungeon that he's built on the top floor of his house.
Well, it's more like little cubicles.
Rooms. Yeah, it's well lit.
And there's like 6 of them up there.
Yeah. So he keeps a lot of victims at times. And he's one by one going through this sort of failing suburb of Las Vegas, and he's just emptying. First he seems to be targeting all the kids. Anton notices day by day that
the more people
more and
from
more
school.
children are just not there for roll call, and none of the adults really seem concerned.
No, or neither do the teachers.
Yeah.
It's like, another one bit the dust.
Yeah. And of course, the way the vampires work, and every movie has its own rules, of course, but in this one, when Jerry bites somebody, they are turned. They may not even know they're turned.
Yes.
But he's weakening them and he's sucking their blood, but he's also made them into vampires because he's trying to rebuild his clan. He wants a strong force behind him. But the people he's recruiting are kind of hopeless. And the little dweeb Ed, played by Christopher Mintz-Plasse, has a battle with Anton in which the vampire Ed is whittled down bit by bit. He's really still a rather useless vampire, even though he's got
all the other
superpowers.
Movies he's called Evil Ed Bates.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know where this evil thing comes from.
I didn't see that on IMDb.
Yeah, in the first movie and the last one, the
Right.
newest movie, he's called Evil Ed.
Yeah. Well, you get the idea that him and Anton were good buddies. They were good nerdy buddies.
Yeah,
they used to do sword and sorcery videos and stuff like that. And now Anton has sort of moved on to hang with the cooler kids.
And Ed is quite,
he's still hurt.
He's the one that's trying to convince him that there's still vampires.
That's right.
There are real vampires in the world.
That's where all the kids are going. That, in fact, a good friend, he was the third member of the little group of Ed and Anton and this other guy, and the other guy is gone, and Ed recruits Anton to help him find out. But Ed has already figured out that Jerry is a vampire,
right?
And gives Anton evidence. Like after Ed is gone, Anton goes to Ed's house, and his parents are nice and say, "Yeah, sure, you can go up to his room and get something." And Anton goes up to Ed's room and watches a video in which there's no person. Doors are opening, doors are closing, and there's nobody there because, of course, Jerry doesn't show up.
That came into play in a couple of places.
Yeah.
Whereas, they all have their phones on them, and he's trying to convince his mom and girlfriend that is a vampire. Yet he doesn't hold up his phone and say, "Look,
he's not there."
So sometimes, they could have used that. They use it in certain sections, and they don't use it in other sections. So it was inconsistent that way. That was one of the little flaws. But I enjoyed this movie.
But it was much more dramatic to have Jerry reveal himself to the mum and the girlfriend in that way, blowing up the house. Like, he's just like, "Oh, I am sick and tired of screwing around here. I just want to eat you."
Yeah.
So I'm just going to do it. And, forget pussyfooting around saying, "I've got to talk to you. Let me in.
Yeah.
Your son is harassing me. He seems to be mentally unstable. He thinks I'm a vampire."
Yeah.
And when the kid won't let him in, it's like, "All right, I'll burn the house down."
Okay.
And he does. and then there's scenes, because it reminded me very much of the first, maybe all of the Terminator movies, because there's a chase scene with Colin Farrell coming after them, and they're in their relatively small vehicle, and Jerry is in a vehicle, and at one point he's under their car, and he's using his super strong vampire claws to rip up through the floorboards and try and grab the mum while she's driving. Oh, it's very exciting. I thought it was very well done. Barrels right along, as they say. Like I said, for Gravity.
Okay.
Our next movie is a very low budget movie.
$10,000.
Brought to us by our friends at Broken Glass Pictures. An American Ghost Story. I think the title is an unfortunate choice because it just far too close to
American Horror Story.
Yeah, which is really what they're ripping off because this is a 2012 movie. So the American Horror Story has already been on. Directed by Derek Cole, written by Stephen Tordakis, who also stars as Paul. He's the main character. His wife played by Liesl Kopp. Other actors, John Gale is Skip, Wendy Haynes is Sue, Kane Clifton is Sam, Maureen McElroy is Anna. All no-name actors, as far as I know.
That's a very low-budget movie.
Very low budget.
But really well done, I thought.
Oh, you give us a rundown on the story, Marco.
Paul has heard about this house.
Haunted house.
It's a haunted house.
In New Orleans?
I don't think so.
I'm getting it mixed up.
No, you're getting it mixed up with Hell Baby.
That's right. Another time, yeah.
Another time.
Okay.
Anyway.
Haunted house.
Yes, he is a writer, and he's been dying to write something of value.
Right.
So when he hears about this house from a number of different people saying that it's a haunted house,
right.
There was a mass murder in there where a man murdered his whole family.
Well, that's very like the Ethan Hawke movie we talked about not long ago, where he's a writer and moves into a house where all these terrible murders
exactly.
happen.
And he wants to experience a supernatural phenomenon.
Yeah.
Okay. And he has tried to talk to previous tenants of the house. He even tries to talk to the landlord kind of guy, and he's not saying much.
Right.
But nobody wants to talk about it. So he decides he's going to rent this place and move in with his girlfriend, not his wife.
Yeah.
And this is the first time they've moved in together, right? Mm-hmm. So this is them getting together in this haunted house.
Yeah, she's got to think, boy, you are not an easy guy to live with, with the baggage you bring of ghosts and monsters.
Yeah. And so they're there for about a week. And then things start happening to her.
She sees
the
ghosts.
Especially
they're torturing her
in the kitchen. In the kitchen, things are getting stacked up again, and the cupboards are opening. Yeah. And when these things start happening, she just kind of goes, "That's it, I'm out of here," and she leaves.
Which any sensible person would do.
Yes. And she tries to convince him to go, but he says, "No, I've got to see this through. I've always started something and never finished it. I'm going to finish this."
Right.
So he decides he's going to stay, and he's there for quite a long time.
Yeah.
He's there for months.
Yeah, it won't reveal itself to him, not for a long time.
Yeah, and he has little things happen, but nothing definitive.
Yeah.
Nothing that he could catch on film.
The funny thing is that we see things happening, like he's in bed half asleep, and there's a body next to him.
Yeah.
And yet, when he sits up in bed, it's gone. So the ghost is like, it's not revealing itself, and yet it's there.
Yeah.
So we know it's there.
And it's wandering the halls and all sorts. And it's mostly, when you see something, it's always under a sheet.
Yeah. Real old-fashioned ghosts.
Yeah.
It's real Casper the Friendly Ghost.
And he finally tracks down one lady that used to live in the house.
That's right.
He goes to meet her, and originally she doesn't want to.
She's a little nervous.
She doesn't want to talk to him because she's had a mental breakdown.
Yeah.
Everyone's convinced her that she's crazy.
Yeah.
And she lost her whole family because they moved into that house.
Yes. Yeah.
And
she, again...
They've left her because
the ghost was only revealing itself to her.
Exactly.
It was only torturing her.
Yeah. So when she said there's something here, her husband left her, took the kid with him.
Yeah.
She had no recourse because she's spouting off all this stuff, and everybody thinks she's crazy.
Yeah.
And she's been living with psychiatrists ever since.
Yeah.
And when he shows up, she doesn't know what to make of him. It's like, is this a reporter?
Yeah.
What's your angle on this?
Yeah.
So when he finally convinces her that he really is doing a serious piece on her,
and he believes her,
and he believes what she's experienced because he's beginning to see some of it. Then she starts telling him about what her experiences were, and then at the very end, she goes a little psycho on him, and when he's leaving, she's basically grabbing him. Move out! Don't go back! You're doomed!
Which is the best advice that he could get.
So he goes back anyway.
Oh yeah.
And he's trying to figure out how is he going to get this entity to show itself.
Yeah.
So he grabs this sheet and starts waving it around,
flinging it over things.
Because he noticed that there was a presence. He knew it was invisible.
Yeah.
So he figured he'd fling this thing around, and at one point, bang!
Yeah, right over
the
top.
thing envelops in the sheet, and it doesn't go away.
Yeah,
it's after him now.
Yeah.
And that's the rest of the movie. Is that basically this entity has decided you're in for it now.
Yeah.
It is a slow movie to start off with. Very slow.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of conversation, a lot of silent parts with him just sitting around, looking around. Nothing much happening. But once the entity reveals itself, then it goes nuts.
Then things start
then
crazy.
Things go nuts. And for a really low budget movie, it was really well done.
It was good for what it is. Which is like like you say, 10,000 US. That seems like nothing today. You could put that on your credit card. So a good job. I would expect better things to come from the director Derek Cole.
I believe he produced it. I think it was shot in his place.
Yes, that's right. It was his house.
It was his house.
Yeah.
And
nice house.
Yeah.
For a beginning director, he's got a nice house. So, his wife must work.
Yeah, and you can see that even in the editing and everything, he has his fingers through the whole end credits.
Yeah.
You can just see that it was done by probably half dozen people, produced and made this movie.
Yes, yeah.
So, kudos to them.
Yeah, very well done.
They did a very decent job for what they had.
Okay. Let's take a look here at movies. So I think huge, weightless thumbs up for Gravity. Best.
A weightless?
Yeah, why not? The best movie I've seen in a long time. I just enjoyed the hell out of Gravity, and in fact, I'm going to see it again tonight.
Yeah, I agree with you. It just seemed
it
went by real quick.
Yeah.
That's why I felt like it was going real time, because it was just so quick.
Yeah.
And
it's one thing after another.
So beautifully done, and so, I just can't say enough about how well done this thing is.
It is.
And they talked to some astronauts about it, and they said that the futility in her breathing and the feeling it made you look when you looked out into that expanse, they said they got it dead on. That's what it's really like to be in space. The only thing they said...
I just hope it's not quite as dangerous as in this movie.
The only thing they said about it is that they don't have space stations in the same orbit.
No.
They would never be in the same orbit.
Yeah, I noticed that in fact everything is sort of within eyesight of each other.
Yeah.
As if space is populated with
by the neighborhood. It's like they've got a block here.
Yeah.
And they said that is the only part that really doesn't ring true.
They had to cheat that. They did. Yeah, in order to move the story along.
Yeah. It would have been more interesting if they were on a different rotation, and that they would have to go either up or down and right at the right time to get to it, instead of just kind of mosey on down the street.
Yeah, there it is.
But other than that, the astronauts said that they got it bang on for a reality of being in space.
What's really good, I had the Jimmy legs all through this movie. I was finding it really hard to sit still. Edge of my seat, as they say.
Yeah.
It was really good.
Yeah.
Suspiria, if you're a horror fan, it's
well worth a look.
It's a movie you got to see. It's on so many top 10 lists. For my taste, and I guess Mark's taste as well, it's a little old-fashioned, a little slow, and of course, nowhere near as shocking today as it must have been
back then
in '77. Yeah, which is like I was just graduating.
And if you
like
Jessica Harper, she's
she's wonderful, isn't she?
She's a cutie.
She is. Hi, Jessica. She's my Facebook friend.
Is she?
She is. Yeah.
Oh. Well, see, these things I don't know.
Yeah. Fright Night, 2011 version. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think Mark did too.
Yes. If you're going to see one of the many versions of this movie, that's the one to see.
That's the best one. Okay.
Yeah, I believe that would be the best.
Good.
One.
And when I first heard that Colin Farrell was in this, I thought, oh my goodness, this must be, this movie must be 10, 12 years old. But no, he's such a huge star, and yet he said, yeah, I'll play Jerry. This is going to be fun.
Yeah.
And he does such a good job. He's humorous in such a black way.
Yeah.
Everything he says has a double meaning.
Yeah.
Or a triple meaning. And he's so good at teasing Anton. Like he's like, I know how to treat women.
Yeah.
So a woman like that, you just know what you got to do with her. It's like, holy moly, this guy's not just talking about one night stands.
Nope.
And then the last one, An American Ghost Story, which is worth seeing. Very low budget, but as a starting point for a director, an excellent start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Good. So we'll be back next week with a
whole new set of stuff.
Well, in fact, we're going to be talking about the first episode of Breaking Bad. We're going to be talking about the first episode of the new season of The Walking Dead.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's coming on. It's actually, I'll tell you, it's going to be on October 13th and
Sunday.
And the first episode is called 30 Days Without an Accident.
That's right. Well, we'll make sure that sign is erased.